community and kind folks to RPG with DBJ. Of course, I am your host, DBJ, and you all are the co hosts here on the channel as we talk pretty much all things tabletop role playing games. But today, I thought we would talk openly about um, making sausage. That's kind of the thumbnail, and it's the easiest way I could describe something that's happening or has been happening behind the scenes. And a little tongue in cheek, it's the DM screen being lifted and we get to see the DM notes of the reality of our hobby in the tabletop role playing game industry as a whole. And I thought that two events have happened and I feel like they're two sides of a coin. So before you guys start posting comments and things, I thought allow me to give you what I think is a summary of what's been going on. Below in the video, you'll see links to two articles that describe these situations. So please check out those links as well. So unfortunately, we brilliant creatives in the tabletop role playing industry love to be immersed in the idea that this hobby, this thing, this is escapist um, uh, thing that we do with friends and family, and we do it online, we do it around a table in real life, isn't as clean and fantasy driven as we think it is. So we have two situations. Let's go with Paizo. Paizo is the creator, is the production company, publishing company behind Pathfinder. Very successful Pathfinder game. Many fans out there who love this game. Literally, Pathfinder was created when the original owners of Dungeons and Dragons decided to really deviate away from the game, and many people wanted to keep the game as it is. Um, Yes, hello there. Believe you me, you, I will respond to some of your comments, but allow me to. Yeah, I am feeling quite a bit better now. Thank you very much for asking. Yes, I had COVID, guys, so I was off. The channel was off for a while. I really couldn't talk and couldn't concentrate. So, the other thing that happened with this with the Pathfinder and Paizo, they created a second edition, but unfortunately, behind the scenes, we realized that a sizable number of individuals, full-time individuals, have decided to unionize because of their treatment, low pay, working conditions, respect, and all that kind of thing. And I know already people have an opinion about unions in general, how terrible unions are, how thank you very much there. You're fine. You are all right there. Samimi. I probably know you, but I don't recognize the avatar. Anyway, one of the situations is that unions, from my opinion, are a result of something. They don't spawn on their own. Unions develop because of situations that already exist. And while many of us may feel like we have jobs that we don't mind or that treat us well, we have employers that respect us, that the reality is that unions are a result. Unions are the demons summoned by the cultists. And someone forgot to pour the salt all the way around the pentagram and the demon gets out, okay? And we have many examples of unions doing things that are some would say anti-industry, right? But unfortunately, many of us are taking the idea of unions bad, right? But the simple fact is we have evidence, or at least evidence from the employees, of a bad situation. We don't know what a unionized tabletop role-playing game industry looks like. So we have evidence on one side, we have zero evidence on the other. You may use examples of past examples of how unions can, you need to. It's the idea of 15 people standing on the side of the road to watch two people dig a ditch, right? And we understand that there is a bad side if out of control, but we don't know what it's going to look like in an industry where it's computer programming and publishing and all this kind of stuff. There's more detail to it about, like, for example, the Paizo employees being to be full time, you must move to this area, whereas the vast majority of those of us in the tabletop role playing game know that there's cloud serving. Like, if all you're doing is writing or doing art or layout, you can do that from nearly any place in the world with a good Wi-Fi connection. It's crazy. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, no, 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 no problem. And first of all, uh, yeah, um, Samimi says, just go with Samimi. I'm usually not here because my schedule doesn't line up. I hate to butcher people's names, especially their avatars and stuff. Um, can I have, can I have as proof Adam's Coke? See that? You know what I mean? So that's why I did that. But always glad to have you, and I understand that the when I broadcast, it's nearly never in anyone's particularly good schedule at all, especially here in the States. So not a problem. Okay, so here's the other side of the coin. Okay, so we got Paizo employees feeling like they're not getting paid enough, and in addition to having terrible work conditions, having to not being able to afford to live in the place they're being forced to move to, not being able to having to use their time off to clean offices because of how dirty they are and such, being told that they have to meet schedules, uh, of demand schedules that are just impossible compared to the fact that they're not being paid enough to do the job. But let's go on the opposite side of that, because I think this is another side of the coin, and that is, I don't know if you guys have heard about the Twitch account leaks for the greatest earners on Twitch, and it is from Critical Role, and how Critical Role has brought in millions of dollars, earned millions of dollars from streaming and extraneous earnings for basically broadcasting their RPG content, their tabletop role playing games. Um, yeah, like Deadman's. I'll bring this up. Deadman mentions, like the guys from Post Human Studios. They are located all over the U.S., but they use the internet to collaborate. It, Listen, I'm using the internet to collaborate with you guys. Period. Right now. Hey, let's use something simple like OneNote or Google Docs or something. Right. I mean, there's so and to not I understand that there is a good reason to have an office for people to meet together. Sometimes being able to walk down the hall to talk to someone. I know there's the internet. I know there's phones. I know there's Twitch and all kinds of electronic things, but there's something about human contact to get across an idea. You see me now. I'm using my hands and I'm moving around, and sometimes body language is lost in the translation of electronic communications. But when you're hiring people to write, they can write from anywhere. So that might, if you're going to force people to move to a place that's extremely expensive to live, you're also asking them to add an additional burden. And unfortunately, in our tabletop community, many of us from the outside go, you know what, wouldn't it be, I mean, that's a dream come true to work for Pathfinder or WotC or Cobalt Press or something like that. Like, I don't understand why they're complaining no matter how much they get paid. Shouldn't they be doing this for free? And it's like, no, people need to get paid for the things that they do. Now, the fact is, most people don't get paid for the things they love. That doesn't mean you don't get paid. And I'm very much a defender. Now, whether they should unionize or not, I don't know. But I'm a defender of their desire to want to be treated better, to have better. And sometimes when people say working conditions, oftentimes it's not necessarily. Hold on for a minute, because I have my producer here is sitting down here. Come on, Kitty. No, come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on down, because you're in front of the camera. I know they can't see you. Your producer's chair is right here. Sorry, that's Sophie. I didn't brush her enough this morning after she ate. Oh man. Mm-mm-mm. Ah, can I have a sip of Adam's Coke? Some Mimi. Okay, that's the avatar. Uh, okay. Anyway, Sabibi says, I completely understand why people try to fix the problems from their workplace. Workers don't know how to use their individual bargaining power when they have it. And now we can't. I don't know if we can speak on individuals being able to negotiate versus the group, right? Like I said, unions come about because of situations. They don't normally spawn individually, like they don't spawn naturally. It's not like you order them and suddenly a union appears. Usually what happens is s- a number of people have the same problem, and then they all, most people feel like, we often feel like islands, like we're the ones being treated bad. Hey, I need time off to do something. I need I would like to be able to afford something, or I wish I had more time to do the writing or collaboration or create the art or do the layout or something. And a number of employees are like, man, I feel the same way too. And then 6 employees, and then 30 employees, and you're going, and they're all like, wait, oh, they disrespect you too? Yeah, I was told I wrote 15,000 words and they told me to trash it. Now I got to redo the whole thing over the weekend or something. And it's like, after a while, an individual who's going, "Hey, listen, I need the weekend off because I got to spend time with my family. I can't keep writing over the weekends." And if everyone feels that way, you start having a unionized position as opposed to bargaining for an individual, and it can feel daunting to say that out loud because you understand that a company doesn't need to recognize what you want, right? And if people are working for are contractual workers, you know, they're hired for specific reasons. Hey, I'm only hiring you for this next product. They don't need to hire you again. If you are a salaried employee, that's another issue, unto itself. So, yeah, I hear you, Smee. Oh, anyway, what else do co-hosts here have to say? It goes on to say, and a lot of times employers are not providing good working terms when they have the power to. That's true. Plus, Samimi goes on to say, plus a lot of people are unskilled laborers and don't have any real recourse on their own. Yeah, that's another issue as well. Like if you've already moved, I don't know, to wherever their Paizo's located, like major cities in the US like Seattle or Miami or New York, Los Angeles, if you've already moved and the cost to live there is so high, you don't have too many recourses to like, well, I'm just going to find another job. And it's like, yeah, sure, but this is your dream job. Like, do you really want to give up your dream job? And it's kind of you're kind of backed into a corner that way. It's like the people who move to Hollywood to find a great job in acting and production and special effects in the movie industry, and someone opens the door for you, but it's a terrible door. You're like, well, do I stay? Do I go? Anyway, let's see who we have. Mike Gould says unions appear when grievances happen. Treat employees fair, and unions won't be necessary. Okay, I'm going to give you a behind the scenes as well for this. I was hired to work for N World, and I know it's a bit of a plug. It's the Kickstarter has happened here. The Level Up Advanced Fifth Edition Kickstarter has happened, and I was hired contractually to help write and um, um, collaborate on it. Specifically for me, myself, and four other individuals were working on, or three other individuals to work on the exploration pillar of the game. So we fully developed it and such like that. I feel like I didn't give my best because I already had a job and it was too many hours. But that beside the point, I was paid very well to do it. And industry standards, sometimes people are getting paid like between 2 to 5 cents a word. Um, I was paid well over 10 cents a word. But when you hear that, I made just shy of like $1,000 or something. And in this industry, tabletop industry, that's huge because I've done other work prior to that, and it's like $50, $100 to write something or whatever, or you have to do it on a it's back end, so it's like, hey, I'll do this for free to try to get this other event, but you can't live off of that, right? I mean, okay, if you're good enough to write and make $1,000, and you want to have a reasonable lifestyle here in the US in some major city, that means you're gonna have to earn 50, 60, $70,000 minimum to live in some of these major cities. So you're talking, I don't know, 10 to 20,000 words a time if you're getting paid well at $1,000 a piece, which means you're going to have 60 projects going. And okay, so there's 12 months out the year. You don't have vacations and weekends, so you're going to have to basically write 5 projects a month. So you're going to have to, okay, so 10,000 words, shove 50,000 words a month. I know it's crazy. Anyway, it gets to the point where you just can't do it. Yeah, Mike says, yeah, it is. It's never been paid 10 cents a word. The Morris, uh, Russ Morrissey over at N World pays very well and on time. That's another thing too. And it's crazy. Like, writers don't get paid a lot at all, not for project work. You most creators in the tabletop role playing industry make more money doing it on their own rather than being hired to do something. But you need hired work to get your name out there. So it's pretty crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, Samimi says, I think people forget that business owners are not all competent. It's not always just malice or profit motive driving abuse. Oftentimes, it's just ignorance and incompetent management. Yes, strangely enough, and this is something that boggles my mind when it comes to business. That sometimes truth and openness and simple respect goes a lot further than people think it does. Like, sometimes maybe I understand. I don't know what happens behind the scenes, but sometimes employees just want to know what's going on. Why am I not getting paid? Or why? Like, for examples, if they said the physical working conditions, the offices were dirty, maybe it's too expensive to hire a company to do it, right? That's a possibility. Or maybe the company they did hire to do it hasn't done it, and now Paizo's got to sue them, and the employees don't know what's going on. And Paizo's already put money out to have the offices cleaned and what, or maybe the building that they're working in they're leasing it out, and there's terrible HVAC system or something, and it's got mold in it, and they didn't know what's going. Sometimes it's just a matter of, hey, employees, sit down. Let us discuss this openly. And employees that are working hard, working through their weekends and extra hours and coming in early and working late, sometimes a boss that comes by stares them in the eye with no ulterior motives and says, I appreciate what you're doing. Is there anything I can do right now to help you out? Hey, you want something to eat? Can I make a call to the family or something? Can order something, food or whatever? I don't know what the case might be, but simple respect goes a lot further. Mm-mm-mm. All right, here we go. Let's go back into the chat. I'm sure I thought I did this. So maybe says the guy doing scheduling is often a manager who was promoted from being another employee. That's I don't think that's bad or good. I think people rising up through the ranks is all right. We've heard of people rising up through the ranks. Michael says what I learned is that there's no money in writing, not enough to live on anyway. Yeah, there's very being writing and living off of your writing is like going into professional sports or becoming a well-known actor or world-renowned musician or top 10 model or something. Like, it is it feels like it's easy, and it isn't, because a lot of it is just random, you know opportunity meeting, luck or something. Samimi says managers might have the drive to treat fellow employees properly, but they can forget, especially when they have ridiculous demands placed on them, and how it feels to be asked to do too much for too little. Exactly, exactly. And listen, empathy goes a long way. Okay. So managers are often are the managerial job itself, you are judged on what other people do. It's a terrible job. Being a manager of other people is a terrible job because no matter how good your efforts are, you're being judged on other people. And Paizo has to make demands for putting out products, keeping their fans happy, and if they promise, hey, we're going to have posters and maps and books, and you have people like us typing in on the forums like Paizo's thing is 2 months late, they suck, blah blah blah, and the Paizo managers are like screaming at the writers to get this thing done, and the writers are going, I, I'm trying to get it done, but you also want me to make it quality, and it's that dichotomy between business and art, and the two oftentimes clash so much. But I think it feels like it's a weakness, but I think it behooves the managers to say, "Hey, listen, here's what's being demanded of me, guys. I'm the last person to say what happens. This is why I'm demanding things from you." And it can feel like a weakness for managers instead of walking around acting like they know something that everyone else doesn't. And it can be very difficult to remove the layers of armor, let's say. Samimi says managers themselves are often expected to make ridiculous sacrifices for a little for a little extra pay, if that, like a bonus or something. Yeah, absolutely. They are told to sacrifice, and I think everyone involved, from the lowliest employee all the way up to the highest, if they can understand what's going on, then your situation hasn't changed, but if you have insight into what the other person's expectations are, you can go, oh wow, Paizo's going like, yeah, we've this month we've got to pay $168,000 to our creditors. It's difficult to give you a bonus when we're looking at interest payments or something, and the employee's going like, ooh, damn, things like that. Michael says, DBJ, I can tell you tales about work conditions that will bleach your hair. It's getting there. It's getting there. I've got the Mr. Fantastic grays, or the temple grays, but it's getting there. All right, so let's blend over to the other side of this coin. Let's talk about Critical Role. So recently, either to a combination of being released and a hacking kind of scandal kind of thing, something that was private was released to the public, and it was the top earners on Twitch. And the top earner was Critical Role. And of course, if you're in a tabletop role playing game industry, you understand that Critical Role are a bunch of friends and voice actors and professionals who have gathered together, and they start broadcasting their role playing games. And it has turned into Critical Role has become its own industry unto itself. And what was released is that they earned, I believe it was upwards of double digit millions, if I'm not mistaken. I read the article, and it literally just went out of my mind right now. If any of you know it, there's a link below in the video, but I'm not going to go to the link right now because it's unimportant. What I'm talking about now is the curtain has been pulled back on just how much these top earners earn, and many people who were fans of Critical Role thought that, sure, they are some industry individuals that are professionals, but they're just doing it for fun, not realizing that is a multi-million-dollar industry that has surrounded them. And it made many fans feel like they were being lied to and taken advantage of, etc., because of how much money they were earning, or they are earning, whatnot. And if I can just do very simple 1+1 math with everyone, if someone has, for example, 14 million subscribers, and every one of them gave their the fan that they are a fan of a dollar, they would earn $14 million, right? I have less than I'm getting close to 2,000 subscribers. If every single one of them, okay, thank you there. Thank you there. The earnings release was $9.8 million. US that Critical Role has earned. Now, the what people are failing to realize is the majority of that money was given to them. Not this wasn't, hey, you need to pay us to watch us. This wasn't this wasn't behind a paywall of like now we know many people that are content creators try to earn money, right? Or money, time is money, and if those individuals that are playing this game, they could be doing other things. They are industry professionals, voiceovers and actors and writers and such, and they could be doing something else. So in order for them to spend so many hours, usually twice as a minimum of twice as many hours off camera as on, then they need to be compensated for that time. People are getting paid for their time, which is why when you see conventions and someone famous shows up and it's like, oh, you want a signed picture? Well, it's $50. Well, the reason they're charging money for like a photograph or a signature or something like that is because they could be doing something else and they need to be compensated for that. It's not their fault that it went from a few hundred to 1,000 to tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands to millions of fans who willingly tip them money and buy their products and support their merch, and they're earning this money, right? But I understand earning that kind of that bringing in that kind of revenue. We also don't know where that revenue goes, right? You got to divide it up between all the people on camera. Then you got to divide up between probably twice as many people behind the camera, and then you have to pay for all of the services and things that go on behind the scenes for all the people that help them do all their social media and produce T-shirts and products and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, let's get back into our co-host here. Deadman says Adam Jury of Posthuman Studios often does streams on Twitch showing him doing layouts for upcoming Eclipse Phase books. See, exactly. And guess what? Here's a person doing layout on Twitch where you can donate money and support the individual. So trying to earn revenue that way, but it also shows how this thing is done. It's basically how the sausage is made, which is why I said that. Many of us can eat some sausage. Most of us don't want to see how it's made, right? And I think we're being given on both sides of the coin, earning almost $10 million to we need to unionize because we're not getting paid enough. And I think we're just seeing an insider's look at the industry. It's pretty to me, it doesn't bother me, but I know it does. It breaks the fantasy of how the industry does work, because there's very few full-time tabletop role-playing game jobs out there in the first place, and to find out that half of those jobs suck is crazy. Mike says Critical Role has become its own religion, yeah, based on the behavior of its fans. Heaven forbid you criticize anything. Yeah. Oy. Yeah, Rickard mentioned 9.8 mil plus. What is it? Rickard says not including any sponsors, merch, and such. That's just Twitch. Exactly, exactly. I mean, between Twitch, Kickstarters, um, Patreon, those kind of things. Yeah, 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 yeah. Anyway, Rickard goes on to say, I don't think even donations and bits were included. Really, really. Hmm. Hmm. Mike says, merch and sponsors added, that would likely be at least 1.5 times that number. Exactly. Exactly. Mike says, regardless of the money, I cannot fault Mercer. He's genuinely a decent person. Exact. And here's the other thing, right? Most of us consider, if I can use a role playing terminology, most of us consider that the more money you have on your character sheet, uh, the greater your corruption stat goes up, and that may be true. But there are some people who are just nice people who also stumble into great earnings and things. There's some nice people who are just like, hey, I want to do this thing for fun. And remember, before Critical Role became, like it was mentioned, became its own religion, had its own following, they weren't making anything. So it's not like these are a bunch of rich folks that said, "Hey, let's capitalize on the fans out there and start." showing our role playing games to make even more money because we're filthy rich. No, it was a bunch of people who were trying to make a living in Hollywood. There's like, man, I'm not making any money doing voiceover, but I sure like role playing and having fun with my friends. And then someone says, well, you can monetize that. I mean, hell, I monetize it. I'm not, I'm not. I'm part of that group. Um, I don't earn that kind of money, but it's the same thing. And it's funny because those of us in the tabletop role playing community, if 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 Matt Mercer was like, "Hey, do you want to be on my show and share some of the dividends?" I guarantee you, people would be like, "Bags are packed. I'll be there in just 5 minutes." Right? It's crazy. Anyway, Rickard says the money side is kind of irrelevant. Sure, it's a lot of money, but they also have a lot of people subscribed, so it's not like they get money for nothing. Exactly. And again, turn on your favorite cable or streaming service or whatever television show. Those shows don't tell us how much money they're earning through advertisement, how much streaming services are making from like Netflix or something. You'd be what is it? I think Netflix earns something something close to like $1 billion a month. It's crazy, right? And they're only earning that much money because of how many fans they have. It's not like they didn't decide to have that many fans. They garnered that many fans. And if each of them is giving just a little bit of money to them for whatever reason or supporting them through buying merch and that kind of stuff, yeah, it's crazy. Um Mike says, Mr. Gould says, I've been listening to Glass Cannon lately, and the amount they make per month on Patreon is incredible. Yes, if you take a look on Patreon, you can see how much people are earning a month based on like, $1 patrons and $5 patrons and such. And it goes back to overpaid athletes, right? And some people could compare like an overpaid athlete to an entertainer. And so when you fill a stadium with 50, 60, 70,000 people to watch an athlete's play, the athlete is bargaining like, hey, wait a minute. Each individual that comes into the stadium is here to see me play. Now, of course, there's huge teams and whatnot, but if you divide up the price that's paid for each ticket to see an athlete play, you divide that up fairly amongst all the people playing and the coaches and the staff and stuff, yeah, it adds up to tens of millions of dollars, US, right? And does it, we all say, well, they're getting paid too much money. Well, if they're making 50 cents off of each individual that watches them per game, yeah, that's it. I mean, strangely enough, that's actually fair, right? Um, anyways, Sabimi says, that I think that with the lack of religious values, people are turning to anything they can to justify a religious crusade. I think you're being mightily real and or sarcastic, right? Anyway, it goes on to say, once they were self-righteous Christians pushing Jesus. Now, don't criticize my favorite property. Yes, don't criticize my favorite property, or you better have the same political opinion as me. Yeah, 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 yeah. And unfortunately, we listen. We all value a. We all have a thing that we desire that takes us away from the real world. Okay, and not to make fun of people's vices, but maybe there's something as simple as a walk in the park, a bike ride. Maybe there's a quiet space in your work environment that you go to just to like take a breather. I'm out of here. And then we creatives, what do? We pick up a comic book. We have a favorite television show. We have a streaming service or something. Whatever the case might be. Some people paint miniatures. We all have a thing that takes us away from. It doesn't change our circumstance, but it gives us a breather. It's our fantasy realm that we go into, and Critical Role is a fantasy realm. Hey, here's my real life. Let me put that away for a minute, for a couple of 3 or 4 hours. Let me watch these people do this thing because I would love to to imagine myself as one of them, my friends, hanging around a table, doing a thing we love. And unfortunately, it's broken the fantasy of the unpaid, just a bunch of people in the basement having fun, which seems to be the epitome of role playing. And there's a lot more to it than that, unfortunately, that is being exposed. And I feel like uh, the fans who feel like they have a one-on-one connection now realize it's not one-on-one. It's like the end of the movie Her, where the main actor is using his phone, and he's got operating system in it, and he's got a relationship with his operating system. And then spoiler alert, at the end of the movie realizes, oh wait a minute, looks around like everybody's got the same exact relationship with the same operating system I do, right? And that one fan in the middle of a flyover country here in the US, Utah, Nevada, Iowa, Kentucky, is like, yeah, you're not alone. There's millions of other fans just like you who think that they have a one-on-one relationship with them, and it's crazy. Anyway, Mike says, after reviewing Out of the Box, Mercer wrote the foreword and initially refused payment for the effort. Nerdarchy wouldn't have it and paid him anyway. That speaks volumes. Yeah, I've done work for Nerdarchy, and not I'm not compared to Matt Mercer, but they have a policy of always paying people. Um, and myself and Alex, Rob over Critical Hit, we were going to do something for free just to get the exposure, and they were like, "No, no, 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 we're going to pay you. Like that's it, period. Like we're going to do it." And correct, like Mercer doesn't need to be evil just because he's making money. And we listen, revenue is different than profit. If they're pulling in, I'm gonna pick a fictional number out there. If they're pulling in $15 million, how much money is going out to support them? Now, does that mean he's making half a mil, $1 million, something? Maybe it's probably closer to like 250, $300,000, maybe, possibly pocketing, maybe, but still, right? Is that money being used to invest in better equipment or sound or editing or leasing the room, the space that they use? That can be expensive too. Rickard says it all adds up, and it adds up quickly. Yeah. All that money coming in and going out. Deadman says, like Felicia Day. She's an actress and avid gamer, and she makes a gaming fan series that was released one episode every month or two. She also does gaming streams on Twitch once a month or so. Um, Once a month or so. Yeah, exactly. And a lot of these actors and actresses, that professionals, I'll say industry professionals, that live stream or do podcasts. You guys all know them. They're on YouTube, they're podcasts, they're Twitch streamers, and they like what's the funny one? Uh in What is it? Inside Me with something Rosenbaum or whatever. But anyway, they're not just doing they're not just streaming their own things for the fun of it, which some of it is fun. I find this fun, but they are earning revenue because they're not being paid to do the thing that they want to do: be an actor, be a singer, be a create 3D models, write for tabletop role playing games. Right? If they're not writing, they're streaming to make up for the money they're not earning, and this is a way to make up for that. So yeah. Rickard says, speaking of Paizo and Critical Role, I wonder how much money Crit Role makes from partnering with D&D, right? Licensing fees, WotC will pay substantial money to Critical Role to get official D&D products to be, let's say, promoted by Critical Role for the purpose of getting other people into the hobby. You don't underestimate how much influence Critical Role has had bringing new people into the hobby to buy and support WotC and other things too. So there's money to be made in that as well. When Critical Role or any of the members put out a tweet or Instagram pictures or whatever, that's money. Attention is money nowadays, and it is very valuable. Samimi says, all I'm saying is, if I were to make a cult Okay, here we go. If I were to make a cult and milk a bunch of normies out of their cash, I'm actually doing a net good in keeping them from annoying everyone else, right? See? See, that's another benefit, right? Like you can get mad at Critical Role or fold your arms and go, I'm not gonna, support them anymore. And I'm thinking, you could be supporting, like Samimi says, you could be supporting some pretty nasty, decadent, evil things out there. Better to support the, what would they be called? The benevolent, benevolent cultists. They're like, drink the Kool-Aid. You mean the Kool-Aid with poison in it? They're like, no, just drink regular Kool-Aid. you know? Oh man. So BB says, hail the great spaghetti god, $5 per sin and you get to heaven. Oh, so what are you gonna do? You're gonna start your own streaming cult? And literally tell people the truth, like, hey, I'm starting a cult. If any of you want to devote your earnings to me so I could be a cult leader, I'm right here. Join my Patreon. Mike Gould says, my escape used to be Acquisitions Incorporated. Yep, there's another one. That changed after Perkins and Rothfuss left. Okay. The magic, if you will, was gone. Now it's Glass Cannon. It's an escape that allows me mental space to create. Exactly. I don't, I think knowing how much Critical Role has earned feels like the value we're getting is less than the value they're receiving, right? When the fans of Critical Role thought that they were earning nothing and we were getting more from it, like that they were value added in our lives, we feel better about that. But the fact that, hey, I'm giving them a buck or two, or I purchased one of their books, or I got another T-shirt from them and supported them by buying some of their merch, we feel like, wow, I paid them $50 of my money, and they're earning zero. Wow, I'm getting more out of this. Now that we know they're earning millions, it feels like, wow, like I gave up my hard-earned money to make them millionaires, right? It feels funny that way, but it's really the same thing. When w- we did a stream about Squid Game, right? How much money is Netflix earning from all the eyes on Squid Game? Was that value added to me? I thought the series was really good. Had a strange ending with dyed red hair and all that kind of business. I'm sure there is a significant Korean cultural significance in that act portrayal, but I mean, I get it, but didn't bother me. I was just like, that's different. Might need to think about that differently. But just because something is value added to us doesn't mean it loses its value because it's also value added to somebody else, right? Whatever. Anyway, Samimi says, I don't think I want to copy Mercer. I straight up hate his DM style and I couldn't copy it if I tried. But he is an excellent DM who puts a lot of hard work into his games. I have to respect that. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Critical Role. Not because I think they do something wrong. Um, I, I I don't like the fact that they joke and he's serious. It rubs me the wrong way, just I don't know why, but it just psychologically does. But I'm a fan of it. Like I'm a fan of people doing what they want to do. Hell yeah, I wouldn't change the show. Who the hell am I, right? So I'm with you there, Samimi. Like I don't think I don't have a problem with the show, and I don't have a problem with the show earning a lot of money. I think we I think we're just shown that like Paizo, Critical Role, Watsy, maybe you might throw in like Green Ronin or Green Ronin, Cobalt Press. There's a couple. I think there's maybe 4 or 5 others are at the top of the food chain, and the rest of us there's a top of the food chain up the gravity well, and the rest of us are just plebes down on the ground, right? And there isn't too much middle ground. And I think we're now realizing that. Rickard says, not just that. What would happen if Crit Roll switched to Pathfinder 2? How would the TTRPG landscape change? Ugh, right? If Critical Role was like, let's play another role-playing game. Once the series ends, we're going to go to a brand new role-playing game series. Would all the fans drop it, or would suddenly there be this gigantic financial shift in the industry? Right? I mean, to be honest, do they have the power to do that? I'm going to say yes. If they switch to Powered by the Apocalypse or Fate or Swords and Sorcery or Lamentations of the Flame Princess or something like that, yeah, I think it would be a huge shift in the industry. Even if they did it short term, temporarily, like 2 months or something. Mike Gold says Critical Role was playing Pathfinder before their initial broadcast way back. If they switched back, WotC would suffer a black eye. I absolutely agree with that. Even if Mercer just did it and went, you know what? One of my best friends has this new RPG. Let's play that. I think even that switch, fans would think, oh, Mercer hates Dungeons and Dragons. F them, right? Even if he was just like, I want to support my friend. Rickard says, here's something as well. A D&D live stream is the top grosser on Twitch. Let that sink in. Yep. Not weird, not weird hot tub streams, not even gaming streams. A tabletop role-playing game with people rolling dice. You know what? Maybe, you know what? They very well could have sexualized the Twitch stream. You know, you're right. No weird hot tub streams. That's funny, but you're so right there, Rickard. Oh shoot, the top earner. Now I'm sure there's some weird gamer streams or something out there that are earning. You know, they're up there in the millions as well. I don't know who else was on that list, but yeah, they are the top stream, and it came from rolling dice. Not only that, but let's also think about this. If the games run about 3 to 4 hours, that's a lot of time for the money they're earning, right? There's some people who are, time is money. If their show was a half hour long or an hour long, there's a difference between that and 4 hours, right? They might be spending quadrupling the amount of time to earn that kind of money versus other industries that are using less time to earn as much money, if that makes sense. You know, a sporting event that takes 2 hours to perform is earning twice as much money if they have to spend 4 hours to do the exact same thing. um, Michael says, note, Talisin's original character was a gunslinger and Mercer had to create a 5e class for him. That's right, I forgot about that. That's right. It did start out as Pathfinder. Well, it started out as Pathfinder because remember, Pathfinder surpassed WotC. Remember? We forget that. Pathfinder dominated the industry for quite a number of years. You know, that's why they were able to hire 50 full-time employees, whatnot. Michael says, I'm not a fan of trying to fill every spare second with soap opera role play. That's not on Mercer. That's on having actors as players. Exactly. I've learned DM tricks from Mercer, Jerry Holkins, Chris Perkins, and others. Yeah. And remember, they are professionals. People have gone to school to do voice acting. People have uprooted their lives to become, for the most part, most artists of any type, dance, singing, um, uh, um, materials artists, sculpting, painting, charcoal, all that kind of stuff. There's like no money in it, and it takes a lot to earn money. And they're doing something. How cool is it to do something you love and earn a living? It's rare but true. I think, is it Netflix that's going to pick up their animated series based on their games, something like that, or their characters? Samimi says the fact that nerds are outdoing Twitch Twitch thoughts thoughties, yeah. Samimi says the fact that nerds are outdoing Twitch thoughts does warm my heart. You know what's funny about that, and I understand it's an example of one, but wouldn't it be funny if after the release of this information that Twitch and other industries that earn a lot of money are going, are going to switch from the hot tub thotties to like start role playing games. And now you see next to the hot tubs, you see like board games and card games. And eventually they just get rid of, they start switching over and stuff. That would be hilarious, but kind of fun because literally, yeah, to earn more money, maybe they should be doing something like that. I don't know. It's rare though. Like I said, it's an example of one. It's not like every Dungeons and Dragons game being streamed all have a ton of viewers. It's 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 a rarity. Mike Gould says, "Here's a way to generate hate." Okay, I'm not a fan of Colville's style either. Yeah, neither am I. He has a refusal to learn the rules style while preaching about being an expert. I can't suffer that. Eh, I I don't find that. I do find that he is successful. His personality portrayal kind of rubs me the wrong way. And I believe it has led to his success. At the same time, I can't suffer it. I know it's the two. It's like being it's like being a investment a stockbroker or something, right? There's a certain personality type that makes that individual successful, that makes them an asshole. You know what I mean? Like the personality is the thing that gets you to that point, but it also means that it rubs you the wrong way. And I find it's like the car sale. It's the prototypical, stereotypical car salesman personality. To take your keys and never let you out and constantly trying to upsell you something. And it's I'm not saying he's doing that. I'm saying there's a certain trait that goes along with success, and it does rub. I agree with you. It does rub me the wrong way. And I bet behind the scenes he's not quite like that. Because some people are able to weaponize that. So I don't know. Mike says, "There's another figure that cannot deal with. There's another figure that cannot deal with criticism." Yeah, I'm. See, I'm the opposite of that. I'm like, oh, you're critical of me? Why? And then I'll sit down and listen to a person, right? It's like, Rick like, oh, hell's no, please no crit roll ASMR. You walk into the dungeon, scrape microphone, lick microphone. What do? I draw my sword. Oh, I peel an orange for my character. 45 minutes, peel, peel, peel. Suckle on the orange slice. uh, Note the word suckle. Samimi says, I've never seen Koval, so I can't criticize him. I have, and I've listened, and I'm just like, I can't. I can, but I can't. Dead Man mentions Alina Pete is a webcomic creator who makes the webcomic Were Geek, okay, who often does gaming in her webcomic and regularly changes games. Now, there's no problem doing that, and I suppose some like those of us that are critical, pun intended, of Critical Role and MC MCDM, Matt Colville and whatnot. These guys are at the top of their game and have done things. Again, they have gotten opportunity and preparation. So opportunity preparation what equals luck, and so that's where they are. But what we don't see in the industry is a lot of people floating to that level. It's like there are few at the top, and the rest of us are kind of like um, bumping around in the midsection. And I think this just shows that not only is it rare, but it takes a lot of investment to do a thing. And I think many of us might, because we consider this a hobby, a pastime, and not a business. I guarantee you, if we had to live off of this, we would. Many of us would adopt behaviors to achieve that goal and have to decide for ourselves in what manner will we or won't we do a thing or not do a thing. You know. Rickard says, only good thing about Koval in terms of style is that he shows, quote, there are other ways to run D&D than how Mercer does it. Exactly. So you do need, you what is it? There's a thing going around that's been referred to as the Mercer effect. The fact that like Matt Koval's out there, you can easily if you wanted to make an example of you don't need to be like Mercer, is to go, well, here's another guy doing it a different way, right? And you need that. We all need a need something separate. Rickard says, and let's be clear, a counterpoint to Mercer's style was desperately needed. That's exactly where I was heading, except you said a whole lot better than I could. That you do need a counterpoint to how the industry works, and similar to how I felt like I was treated by Myler and Morrissey over at N World. I feel like there is a way to treat people fairly and compensate them fairly and give them deadlines and things that are fair, as opposed to how the employees probably feel at Paizo. Again, I can't speak for how, maybe many of us would go look at the Paizo people like, I don't see what your problem is. But I have a feeling they're probably, if they're going to complain about this, I'm sure if they're going to unionize and bitch about their dream job, there's got to be something wrong, because 99% of us that are in the role playing hobby would nearly commit felonies to be in those positions, right? And so I think that to complain about your dream means there's something wrong. And so I think there are other ways to treat people. And we've always heard the term to make money, you have to spend money. I would expand that out, is that to get more back, sometimes you have to give more. And like how I was treated over at N World, there is a value in treating people well because you will get loyalty back. Um, those guys over at N World have a Rolodex. If you guys remember Rolodexes, filled with people that they can call at any moment, and will come to them and run to them and say, yes, I will be part of this project. Yes, I will do this thing for you, because they've been treated well. And when your employees, the people you have relationships with, are treated well, they will come back. Um, and do more than they need to. Like I'm promoting the Level Up Kickstarter, right? They didn't ask me to do that at all. I'm just like, well, I'm part of it, and you treated me well, so I'm gonna give you value. I'd like to be value added to your business. Mike says Sam Regal also drives me nuts. I don't know him. He seems to need to troll other players just for S&G. I have zero spoons to deal with man babies. Ooh. Ooh. I don't know the reference, but I'm gonna trust your opinion. Yeah. Yeah, I hate trolling people. I hate the people that troll. But you know what? Some people are professional at it. They're really good at like they're really good at like pulling the pin on a grenade and tossing it into a group of trolls and watching them all like scramble and fold their arms and start to share tweets out and stuff like that. Yeah, unfortunately. So Mimi says, this might be the only stream I ever catch live. Oh, thanks. I'm glad to be here. Here, love y'all. I'll still be watching, just probably not live. That's all right. Anyway, glad that you could be here live. It's very it's rare. I understand for most people, especially here and anywhere here in this time zone, from America's hat to America's pants. But I'm being sarcastic. I know, for in the Americas itself, so it's very difficult. But again, thank you very much for being here, and always. And you know what? I don't think you guys realize I read all the comments all the time. So if you shoot a comment on a video, Deadman even suggested I should do like a video just based on like a kind of a collection of all the comments and questions and things. Just wish I had more time. I don't know. Rickard says, anyway, anywho, have to head out to work. We'll try to catch up tomorrow. Stay safe out there. Yep, we've gone an hour. We're getting to the end. Thank you very much for being here. By the way, below in the video, we have the links to articles about the Paizo and possible unionizing. We have links to the exposure of how much Critical Role has made. How do you feel about either of those situations? Is this behind the scenes business part, does that kind of ruin your immersion in the hobby, or does this fuel you and go, wow, there's opportunities for me to do my thing? Is it good that we know about these things, or did you just wish you never found out about how the sausage was made in the first place, right? And can you put it behind you, or has this ruined anything for you? Whether there's these particular content creators are are have you changed how you are planning to interact with other content creators that are on the up and up, right? Are when you see some of your podcasters and streamers and live broadcasters and whatnot, like, are you now going to go, I don't know if I want to be part of your Patreon or Kickstarter any longer? Or are you going to double down and go, yeah, I think they deserve to have it. So let me know. And how would you feel if you were given the opportunity to join some of these people? How do you feel about buying Pathfinder products any longer? Do you think that it would you now, in a strange way, would you support Pathfinder or Paizo's creations because you feel like they should earn more money to spread to their employees? Or kind of how the industry has come now, many people who used to write for WotC, for TSR, have become their own entities. Matt Colville's kind of one of them, right? Are you now more inclined to support individuals and their creations that used to work for the companies that made your products as well? I don't know. There, we also have that kind of division in the industry. Maybe we'll talk about. You know what? That's what we'll talk about tomorrow. What the question I'm going to give to you, here's homework. Think about this. Does the word homebrew mean anything anymore? And what I mean is, individuals who used to work for the biggest role-playing games out there, of course, TSR, Wizards of the Coast, and others, Paizo, when they go off on their own and do their own thing, is that the equivalent of us making our own homebrew? And is that good for the hobby or bad for the hobby for creators, individual creators, to go off on their own, or should they be under a single umbrella to get a distillation of their greatest work, you know? Anyway, lastly, Michael says, I found Chris Perkins to be an inspiration. He rolled with the punches and basically used yes and to turn Acquisition Incorporated's uh, hilarity into story points. He taught me to go and generate player focused content. Yeah, you know what? He sure did a lot of times, because they do some ridiculous things, and he would instantly in his head canon flip it over into a story element. you know, Oh man, thank you there, Mike, for taking us out. Right, eternal, shiny, and chrome. But Deadman and says, shouldn't that be create eternal, shiny, and chrome? Yeah, yeah. Mike's like, judges looks left, judges, slow music, build up, build up. Yeah, we'll accept that. Yeah. All right, guys, everybody out there, thank you very much for being part of the show. Yes, create eternal, shiny, and chrome. Tomorrow, we'll talk about the 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 state of homebrew. I don't know another way to describe it, but we'll talk about individual creators, WotC and Paizo. Is this the downfall of Paizo? I doubt it. I kind of doubt it, because I think the employees there are like, we don't want to quit. We just want better conditions. And I think that's actually a good thing, because this gives the opportunity for them to come back and go, okay, don't unionize. Here's what we're going to do instead. And so, yeah. And, you know, despite being a person who's, frankly, I'm pro union. Um, is this a is the threat of the thing a way to stop the thing from happening? That's also a possibility as well. So tomorrow, when we talk about homebrew and individual content creators versus the industry content creators, is there more power in a name now? Are people brands? Matt Mercer is a brand, uh, as well as Critical Role being a brand. What happens if Matt Mercer leaves Critical Role? Ooh, the horror, right? So anyway, guys, have a great one. I will see you later. Thank you very much for joining.